Hi, welcome to my presentation about A-level German. I hope you find it useful. And if you have any questions, then email me please at rkirk@haslingdenhigh.com. So what are the aims of A-level German? Well, it's really to extend your knowledge of German, as you would expect, to build on the skills that you've developed at GCSE. And you're developing the skills of spoken German, speaking German a lot more fluently on a lot more different topics, and of your written German as well, to make it more accurate and to make it more varied. I mean, at GCSE, you've covered a lot of the ground, a lot of the tenses, a lot of the word order as well, those type of rules, but it's extending those and practicing those and making them as accurate as we can. Also developing your comprehension skills, your comprehension, your understanding of listening skills, your spoken German, of spoken German and of written German on lots of different topics. Type of thing you did at higher level at GCSE, but on different topics and in more detail. One of the main differences between GCSE and A-level is talking about German-speaking countries. At GCSE, you tend to talk about yourself or your friends or your family, but mainly about yourself in relation to school perhaps, or holidays you're going on, and that type of thing. Well, at A-level, you are talking about German-speaking countries, what's happening in German-speaking countries. So in Germany, in Austria and in Switzerland. So it's not just about festivals that you go to or that you celebrate, but it's the type of festivals that Germans celebrate. It's not talking about music that you like particularly, but music that Germans like to listen to and why they like to listen to them. So it's looking at those type of things in more detail. And of course, developing your understanding of how the German language is structured, and that all feeds into your the quality of your written and your spoken German. So what does the course look like in year one? I've divided this into two different teachers. You'll get two different teachers at A level, and we're called Teacher A and Teacher B. And you can see there, Teacher A would be teaching the topics of the changing family. So it's not just talking about your family anymore, but talking about changing family structures in Germany. Youth culture covers things like music and fashion, and the type of things and cinema as well, the type of things that German young people like to do. And Berlin comes into that as a big topic about Berlin and how Berlin has changed over the decades and centuries. And then on Teacher B, we've got the digital world. So it's talking about technology, again, that comes in up at GCSE, but talking about developments in Germany. Festivals is also a GCSE topic, but we talk about festivals that take place in Germany. Sometimes they are specific to certain regions or certain countries. Sometimes they go across them because they are religious festivals. And art and architecture, if you're interested in that, that's quite an interesting one to look at German artists and German architecture. On Teacher A there it says film study, and I'll show you on the next slide what we tend to do with that. You will have to, at the end of the 2 years, one of the exams, the part of the exams is to write about a film. So we start looking at that at the end of the first year. And obviously your grammar and your vocabulary that's specific to those topics above there, but also vocabulary that goes across all topics. There's always verbs and adverbs that go across all the different topics, plus your topic-specific vocabulary as well. And the grammar goes across all topics as well. That's something else that we consolidate on from GCSE, but extend as well. So, as I mentioned on the previous slide, the films we look at, we only have to write about one film at the end of 2 years, but we look at 3 different ones and see which one we like best. We give you a bit of a choice. We tend to go for Goodbye Lenin. Goodbye Lenin is set in Berlin when the wall came down in 1989, and it's a bit of a comedy, not just a comedy, but it's a bit of a comedy, so a bit more light-hearted on certain aspects of that, but set in Germany as the wall came down. There are some links there if you want to have a copy of those links, if you can do. This is just some short YouTube clips about those films in German, just to give you a flavour of those. The course outline in year 2 then looks like this. Again, we separate the topics out according to the teacher. A little bit meatier now, as you can tell for those topics, and there's a bit of a theme running through these. Teacher A will look at multiculturalism, immigration and racism. All those things are linked, of course, but we take you through those different topics. Teacher B will look at politics in particular, but not just politics of political systems and that type of thing, but how young people are engaged or not engaged in politics. What are the reasons behind that? Reunification comes into that again, which is obviously linked back to the film. If we look at one of those films, Goodbye Lenin. And Germany in the EU, very topical at the moment. What is Germany's relation to the EU compared with the UK's relation to the EU? Very different. At the bottom of those boxes, book study, we do have to look at a book as well, and one teacher will look at the book, which I'll show you on the next slide. And there's also something called an individual research project, is where you research anything that you want to at all, as long as it relates to Germany or German-speaking countries. You can research it, and that feeds into the speaking test, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. And of course the grammar and the vocabulary that keeps getting fed and extended as we go through the year. So the book, we do have to read a book, and there's a choice. We tend to go for this one, Der Vorleser. It's called The Reader in English. We read it in German, but there are English versions available for this, which is quite useful to have. And there is a link there to a film clip again, because there is a film of this called The Reader, which is an English film actually. But the clip there is a German version of it. Might give you a little bit of a flavour of what that book is about, set in wartime Germany in the 40s, and some interesting topics are handled there. To support you in your learning, you get a hard copy, so a paper copy of the textbook. This takes you through the 2 years. And there's also an online version of it as well, so you've got the two to help you there. I think sometimes it's great having online stuff, but it's nice to have a paper copy as well. Sometimes you find that easier to handle sometimes. For the listening in particular, the online version is useful. Just shows you there, I've just taken one of the pages from it. That is in the topic of youth culture, about clothing and fashion. Do clothes make people? You know, why do we wear certain things? And you can see from there the texts are more involved than GCSE, although if you're used to the GCSE higher level reading texts at the beginning of the A-level course, they are of a similar standard. So what does the exam look like at the end of the second year? There are 3 papers. The first one is listening, reading, and has translations in it. So it's listening comprehension, it's reading comprehension on any of the topics. There are 12 topics altogether from the 2 years. Lots of different types of listening and reading activity, as you can imagine from your GCSE studies. And there are translations, a translation into English and a translation into German, again similar to what you do at GCSE, but based on those 12 topics that you've studied over the 2 years, and that's worth 40% of the total mark. The writing paper is based on the film that I just mentioned, usually Goodbye Lenin, and the book, usually Der Vorleser. So you write 1 essay on the film, 1 essay on the book, which is quite useful because you don't have to write about all the other topics that you've studied. You do know that the writing papers will be based on those 2 things. So it's knowing the film and the book in detail, and lots of different aspects to it. And then, as you'd expect, there is a speaking exam as well. Teacher conducted, which means the teacher does it. We do get a choice, although that choice is probably going to be taken away from us in the next year or so. So it is teacher conducted, so one of your German teachers will be doing that test with you. You get a stimulus card, so you get a card that you have to look at and make sense of, and there's a conversation from that as well. So that's one part of the test. And then the other parts I've mentioned before is the individual research project. So you present for 2 minutes on that, and then there's a discussion with your teacher about that, about the other things you've found out, but it's very much guided by you, what you want to talk about. So as long as you've done all your research and your preparation on that, it's not too onerous a task, I don't think. Worth 30%, so you can see how that is all adds up. Right, what are the extra opportunities within German? We try and encourage you to learn and expose yourself to German as much as possible. Because you come to school, you'll do the work, you'll do your homework, I'm sure you do that fine, but the difference is how much other exposure do you get to German, and this is how German children get to speak English so well, because they are exposed to English a lot more. So if you're listening to German music, it helps. Watch German films, not just the ones in school, but any TV shows, which always have the subtitles with them as well, but they're always useful to dip into. Articles online according to your interest, that's always good. You've got interest in football or theatre, there's always things in there you can find. Going to the cinema to watch German films, there is a cinema in Manchester that puts on German films, and that might be an opportunity for us to go to Manchester to do that, to watch a film there. Watching YouTube clips in German, again, I would say watch things that you were interested in, and hopefully visiting Germany as well, either independently on your own or with a family, or as part of a school group. We have run trips in the past to Berlin, and hopefully that's something we'll be able to do in the future. When we talk about careers, I don't think there's one career path that German leads to. I always say, German, being able to speak another language is going to be a skill for life. Nobody can ever take that away from you. It does combine very well with other subjects, and university departments are very flexible with that. So they might combine it with a science degree or a business degree and give you a language element to that as well. It's another skill that you can add to your skill set when applying for jobs. And the next 2 slides contain some interesting statistics if you need any more convincing of the use and value of continuing to study German. For example, look at this map. It shows for each country the largest trading partner of each of those countries. So if you look at the UK, for example, it's shaded in the German flag because Germany is our biggest trading partner. France is Germany's biggest trading partner. So you can see all those countries do rely on Germany to trade with. And the next slide shows you the possibility of earnings and how much more you can earn by being able to speak a different language. And Germany, according to The Economist, comes out top there. So I hope that's given you a little bit of food for thought. Any more questions, do ask me or your teachers, and hope to see you in September. Auf Wiedersehen.